Hello, welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and check out my channel for other updates. So the last update about Twist of Fate. Prachi cries and heartbroken because of Ranbir's action, and Prachi challenged to stop Rhea and Ranbir's honeymoon. Let's continue. Rhea tells Prachi that Pallavi booked honeymoon ticket for Ranbir and her because she doesn't regard Prachi as her daughter-in-law. Rhea says she and Pallavi have heart relationship, and even Ranbir and she have heart relationship. Prachi says mommy likes you because she dislikes me. She says you don't have heart relationship with her, and says Ranbir and you have anger relationship. She says he was angry with me and that is why he married you. She says don't think that he is coming closer to you, but in fact, he is going far away from you. Rhea says you have good explanation to make your heart understand. Prachi says if any tree refuses to give the shelter, then the people will buy umbrella, and says you are that umbrella. She says it breaks some things with the wind. Rhea says tomorrow is my wedding night with him, and he will be kicked out from here. Rhea says until I return, you can be peaceful here, and then you can go, and says Sushma auntie is not with you, and only Shahana is there. She says I can help you, and says I can complain against you to the police. You will get shelter and food, and asks her to take Shahana along with her. Rhea goes. Prachi gets restless. Prachi comes to Grandma and Shahana. She asks Grandma. Grandma says don't worry, Ranbir is not like that. He doesn't want to have honeymoon with Rhea. She says I won't let it happen. Grandma asks Shahana, why did you say that Prachi will not stop Ranbir and Rhea's wedding night? Prachi says I had decided not to stop them, but Rhea said something and made fun of my love and relationship, and I got angry and I challenged her that she cannot have honeymoon. I won't let her. Shahana and Grandma get happy. Prachi says we have to do something different and says I will do this alone. Shahana says to Prachi that think with us and says the plan is made all together. Prachi says I will make the plan alone and says I am doing this as I have to win this challenge from Rhea and not because I have feelings for Ranbir. Shahana and Grandma looks at Prachi. Prachi asks about the hotel name and goes. Shahana made fun of Prachi in front of Grandma. Grandma laughs and says Prachi wants to get back Ranbir and that is why she doesn't want him to go near Rhea. Shahana says Ranbir also lies. Grandma says both of them are liars. Prachi comes back and hears them. She says I will make my own plan and she scolds them for making fun of her. Grandma asks why is Prachi lying to them. Shahana says Prachi loves Ranbir. Prachi says I don't love him and I am doing this to win this challenge. Grandma asks her to think something fast, else Vikram's driver will take Ranbir and Rhea. Ranbir looks at the sky standing in the window and recalls Prachi's words. He recalls Rhea's words that she would help him to fulfill his third dream. Prachi is also standing at the window and thinking about Ranbir's words. He says I couldn't keep Prachi happy. I will go far away from her so that she stays happy. Prachi says I won't let Rhea take you away from me. Rhea looks at Ranbir's picture and says we are not going for our honeymoon, but away from Prachi, where we would unite forever. Prachi sleeps. Ranbir owes her. They have an eye lock. Prachi asks him to leave her and says I don't need you. Ranbir says I don't want to help you. Her wedding necklace gets stuck in his shirt. Ranbir asks should I try to take it off. A song plays in the background. They free the wedding necklace and go their separate ways. Ranbir thinks what is happening with me? I have to move on. But my heart is stopping me. Prachi thinks I should not forget what he has done with me. He is nothing to me. The next day, Pallavi asks Niti to get all the stuff and keep them in the car. She does Ranbir and Rhea's outing. Aliyah says they are not going for war. Pallavi says I am blessing them for safe and happy journey. Rhea asks for Aliyah's blessings. Aliyah says it is with you always. Ranbir asks where is Grandma? Grandma says I have come and she thinks that Aliyah has manipulated Pallavi. Vikram asks Grandma to act. Grandma asks, why can't I do what I wanted? Vikram says the war is going on between Ranbir and Prachi, and when they realize their mistake, everything will be fine. Niti comes back after keeping the stuff. Pallavi says the driver will drop you both, and says she would have sent them abroad. She says that the manager is her friend, and asks her to call her if there is any problem. Rhea thanks her. Aliyah asks Rhea not to leave Ranbir's hand. Grandma says yes, you might fall. Rhea looks for Prachi and thinks if she will come to see them off. She says I have forgotten something and she goes. Ranbir thinks that Rhea went for some other work. Rhea comes to Prachi's room and calls her and thinks that she has gone herself. She says what was she saying yesterday and says Ranbir himself is taking me for honeymoon. Rhea says to Prachi that you couldn't have slept all night and that is why you accepted defeat and went away. She says I will be relaxed and I will go for honeymoon and I will prepare myself that I have won. She says Ranbir and my honeymoon is more special now. Ranbir calls Rhea. Rhea goes. Prachi comes to her room and sees Rhea going out, but she couldn't do anything. Vikram comes to the room and tells Pallavi that he is sending urgent mail and then call. Pallavi says Ranbir and Rhea haven't gone yet and asks him to see them off. Vikram says Aliyah is there with you. Aliyah comes there. Pallavi says they will feel bad. We shall go and see them off. She says I need to talk to you. Vikram says sure. Pallavi asks Niti to call everyone downstairs. Rhea tells Aliyah that she had gone to Prachi's room to sprinkle salt on her wounds as my good Shagun. She says Prachi was not in the room. Aliyah says where did she go to? Rhea says I am sure that she has accepted defeat. Everyone sees Prachi standing near the car. Rhea tells Aliyah that she is very sure that Prachi has accepted defeat. She looks at Prachi standing near the car. Aliyah, Pallavi, Ranbir and others looks at Prachi as well. Pallavi says Prachi has gone to do new drama. Rhea says I will talk to her. She asks Prachi what is she doing here. Prachi says I will go on the honeymoon with you and then asks her to relax and says I don't like to go on honeymoon. It is yours, not mine, and I don't want to drop you to Manali. And says just like I cannot bear you, I cannot bear to sit in the car for a long time. She says you wanted to go today, so I thought to say bye in my own style. Pallavi says we haven't arranged for this car. Prachi says I know, and she says that the car which dad has arranged couldn't come as the driver is unwell. She says your honeymoon is important, so I arranged for another car and the driver, and says no need to thank me as Ranbir's company will pay the bill for it. Pallavi says I will talk to the driver. How can he get unwell? Prachi says if you don't trust me, then call him. Rhea asks Prachi why is she doing this and says you have challenged me that you will not let me go and asks why do you want me to go now? You have the chance so you can spoil it too. Prachi says it will be spoiled when it started and says your honeymoon will be spoiled. Just go. It will be done. Pallavi calls the driver. The driver is resting on the bed and says that he is unwell and he couldn't come to work. He says I called the landline number and informed Prachi. Pallavi ends the call. Aliyah tells Pallavi that the car is a luxurious car and Rhea and Ranbir can go in it. She asks Prachi not to interfere. Prachi says thank you, aunt. Rhea asks Pallavi. Ranbir thanks Prachi for making this day and get upset. He holds Rhea's hand and asks her to come and says it is very cold in Manali. Rhea sits in the car. Ranbir says bye Prachi. He goes to grandma and hugs her. Prachi wishes Rhea happy journey and says your honeymoon and my challenge has started here. She says I just spoiled your honeymoon. She asks her to think always why I did not delay your honeymoon. Though I have the chance, she asks her to have fun. Ranbir sits in the car and asks what happened. Rhea says nothing. She calls Prachi and says we will miss you on our honeymoon. Prachi says you will not miss me for long. Grandma tells Shahana that Prachi brought the car and says that Prachi has some plan, but she is not telling us. Shahana says I shall say sorry to her and says she is spoiling her honeymoon as she wants to stop Rhea. Grandma says Prachi is hiding her feelings from us and she might stop talking to us. Shahana says how to find out her plan. Grandma says we shall keep an eye on her. Shahana says yes. Pallavi tells Aliyah that she is finally relaxed because Rhea and Ranbir has gone. Aliyah says she is not yet relaxed and says Prachi will do some drama. Pallavi says Rhea and Ranbir would enjoy the life and would handle Prachi here and says she doesn't deserve to be my servant, but she calls me mommy. Pallavi expresses her hatred for Prachi. She says Rhea and Ranbir are not here and we should teach a lesson to Prachi and take advantage of the situation. She says I won't let her sleep in my son's bedroom. Prachi opens the cupboard and takes out her sari. She recalls her love confession to Ranbir while it is raining and Ranbir asking her why she is blushing seeing him as she already told him that she loves him. He holds her hand and says you cannot hide anything from me. Prachi says I will tell you and says I was thinking to tell you that I love you when we go on our honeymoon. Ranbir gets happy and hugs her. He says he always thought to go to do cruise with her. He asks why didn't you tell me? Prachi says your family were upset and my mother was missing. He says if you had told me, then I would have created such a situation. Prachi asks what would we have done on our honeymoon. Ranbir asks her to say what they would do. He says what shall we do? Prachi says don't make fun of me and says, I always think that you did not apply Sindor with your hand on me, and says you would apply it on our honeymoon. Ranbir says after that, what are we going to do? He says we would decide there itself and asks, what have you decided? Where would we go? Prachi says my favorite place, Manali. I love Manali. Ranbir asks her. The flashback ends. Prachi wipes her tears and recalls Ranbir telling Rhea that they should go to Manali for their honeymoon and holding her hand while going, and Rhea's words that she will miss her. Prachi says it is good that you challenge me, Rhea. Your honeymoon will not happen. Rhea and Ranbir were in the car. Rhea thinks, why did Prachi let us go and why did she help us? She arranged for the car for us and asks herself, why is she overthinking? And she thinks not to think and she should enjoy. Ranbir says, why was Prachi smiling today? And thinks I came with Rhea to prove to Prachi that I have moved on with her. But what will I tell Rhea if she will feel bad? The driver stops the car and tells them that he stopped working. Rhea asks Ranbir when they will reach the hotel. He says till 10:30 p.m. Rhea tells the driver that the place is scary. Ranbir asks if she is scared. Rhea says she was a bit scared and says this scary night turned into romantic night with you. The driver says the car seems to be fine, but it gives some problem in the code. He asks Ranbir to push the car a bit and says there is mechanic nearby, and if they get late, then the garage will be closed. The driver says there is a hotel also nearby where people come and go. He says I cannot push the car as my hand is hot. Ranbir says I will push the car. The driver says you cannot push it alone and asks Rhea to also push the car. Rhea thinks that she is very sure that Prachi has done this to spoil my honeymoon. She asks the driver to call for another car from their company. The driver says our office is near to your house and it will take much time. Ranbir says 8 hours. Rhea thinks that they have to reach the hotel suite somehow. The driver asks them to push the car. Ranbir asks Rhea to sit in the car, but Rhea did not, and Rhea and Ranbir push the car. Rhea says my favorite dress has become dirty. Ranbir says that is why I asked you to sit in the car. The driver makes a video call to Prachi. Prachi watches them pushing the car in her phone. Grandma hears their voice and peeps in Prachi's room. She says how is Prachi seeing Rhea and Ranbir's car not working? She realizes that both the car and driver is of Prachi and she stopped them. Rhea thinks that the driver is still on video call and he is not saying anything. She gets doubtful. The driver tells Prachi that he has to end the call as Rhea is coming. Prachi says let her come. Rhea asks with whom he was talking to and takes his phone. Prachi talks to Rhea on the phone and called Rhea bingo, and Rhea looks at Prachi in shock. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like my video, share it, and please subscribe to my channel for more updates. Thank you.